This morning on Nogales Report, we have with us Larry Stein, the National Program Director for Young Audiences. Larry, you're in the community this week, total Santa Cruz County, and you're performing some concerts. What type of concerts are you performing?
I do a program called The Sound Idea. We're doing 18 programs in area elementary schools this week. And it's a program to basically show kids that you can make music with anything you can find in a junkyard, or just using your hands, or different words you can say with your voice. It's a program that is trying to let kids understand that music is very easy to do if you just get into it and have some fun with it. It's part of a Young Audiences program that's in 39 cities. And there are groups all over the country doing similar types of programs, not only in music, but in theater and in dance as well. One thing is you want to try to give them that it's not something to be afraid of, to play music, to sing or to dance or to act, but you can have fun with it. In this particular program, everything we use are homemade, handmade instruments, things like pots and pans and coffee cans and different pipes and pieces of wood and cardboard boxes. So it's really to show them that if you just use some imagination and have some fun, you can get a group of people together and have some fun making music. At the same time, we're also giving them a little bit of an idea of what it takes to be a musician. Gregg and I, Gregg works with me, Gregg Johnson, have been spending about 10 years playing percussion music. And this is some of the most fun we have because we get the kids up with us playing all kinds of pieces throughout the program.
And where did you get this concept to bring in the junkyard equipment to make music?
Well, my background is as a composer and a percussionist. I went to college at the University of Buffalo. And then I went out to California Institute of the Arts for graduate school. When I started playing percussion music at college, we started playing some American music that was written in the 1920s and 30s by John Cage and Lou Harrison. And at that point, they were rebelling against the classical music of Western Europe at that time and said, we don't need to have scales based on Bach, and we don't need to have instruments that cost thousands of dollars. And they wrote a tremendous amount of music written for brake drums and hubcaps and wash tubs. So I guess when I was about 18 or 19, I started for the first time playing that music. When I went out to California, we put together a percussion concert band, and we brought marimbas and vibraphones and drums and timpanis with us to the schools. And I had this feeling that we might be, although exposing children to the music, we may be almost turning them off at how big it was, that they never had a way into this kind of music. They couldn't afford to buy a marimba that cost $2,500 or this, or a drum set that cost $2,000. So we started thinking about doing a program that used instruments that all cost, $2 or $1 or 50 cents or that kind of thing.
And with these instruments, are you trying to train the kids to become professional musicians? Or what are you trying to exactly give to the kids?
Well, the Young Audiences program is primarily to expose children to the arts, and that means to give them a sense of appreciation of what the repertoire is, what musicians and actors and dancers have to do to prepare to be performers, but not necessarily to get them to be performers. We mainly want to develop audiences for the future. That's why we have the name Young Audiences. We're there to give them a sense at what people do as artists and how much fun and how much information they could find out through the arts and how that it can increase their quality of life down the road. If we get them interested in finding that the arts are not a threatening thing, that they can go experience it, they will later become audiences of the future. They will go to concerts, go to plays, go to dance events, etc.
So it's basically an appreciation of the arts. And how do the kids usually react to these?
Well, most of the programs try to get the kids involved as much as possible. They're not just concerts. We don't just come and play a performance for the kids. We do that in places, but we try to involve the kids where possible. Maybe use them as a conductor, have them come up and play some instruments. We can never choose enough kids compared to the amount of emotion and enthusiasm that they have. They get totally into it.
It's your space cake, whenever you go.
Well, what Young Audiences does is we try to find the best professional musicians, dancers, and actors in the community. So we go through an extensive audition process to do that. Once we've made that selection, then in my role as a national program director, I go around the nation and stop in these cities and give workshops to artists who have been auditioned on how to work with kids, how to communicate with kids, and how to better create an experience that will let them be the performer they want to be, but also let the kids understand what they're about. So they go through this extensive training process that takes about a year.
And do they pick it up fairly easy, the professionals?
Some do and some don't. And each city has its own particular problems and its own particular advantages. It depends on the kind of musicians. As we take a look at folk and jazz musicians, they tend to have an easier time, partially because of their training and improvisation. In terms of making things up on the spot, they sometimes can work with children a little easier. Some of the classical musicians who have been trained to follow a rigid structure throughout their life, when asked to respond in a kind of spontaneous way with children, have a little bit of a tougher time. But all the artists who come to Young Audiences have a desire in sharing their art form with the kids. So one way or the other, they finally learn how to do it and do it well.
And what about fundraising? Who pays for all this?
Well, I'm part of the national organization, which is located in New York. We have each chapter around the country has its own volunteer board. It's made up of community people who go out and raise funds. They raise funds from local businesses, from individuals. The schools pay for about 30 to 40% of the program. The national organization provides roughly $400,000 in funds from the Musicians Performance Trust Fund in New York. And that's a fund that the Musicians Union has created as a result of the profits that film and the record industry makes. So that pays for part of it. We have a certain percentage that comes from the government, both local and state and federal. So it's a combination of all kinds of things. We try to get a little bit here and a little bit there. We do want to pay all our artists professional wages, and in fact that's one of the things that separates Young Audiences from other organizations that are doing this kind of thing.
And these professionals, what type of professionals are you looking for? I mean, exactly, when you're going out to look for a group for a gig, what do you look for?
Well, the program started pretty much with the Baltimore Symphony, and it used classical musicians who had a symphony position. And in the daytime, they would split up into smaller string groups and woodwind groups and brass groups. And the same is true as we go to dance companies, ballet companies, and other kinds of organizations in the city. We're mainly looking for artists who demonstrate a high ability in their art form, that are interested and are able to communicate with children, and are able to create and develop a program that has educational relevance as part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be back right after these messages.